clients say, I feel magical. I feel magic. I feel like I can create on demand. I feel like I have a magic wand. And I was like, okay, there's something with this. And when I looked up the word magic, it actually comes from an old Persian word, means to have power. And I'm like, ooh, I love that, right? Sometimes we think the word magic is like, oh, unicorns and butterflies. But when you think about like to own your power and to stand in your power, that is the brilliance of, I hope what I help bring out of people so that they can really shine.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Carpe Diem Living the Podcast. I am your host, Shane Gitmed, and today we are speaking with Teri, and we were just talking earlier about just COVID and all the things of being, parents during this time and with our dogs. So this is going to be a great episode of just talking about unlocking your magic and all the things that comes with that. So Teri, tell us about you and what do you do as far as, speaking and just with holistic things.
I thank you. It's an honor to be here on your show. I'm so excited. So so a little bit about me to bring you up to speed is, long story short, I in high school I got involved in peer counseling. And I had a situation where it was such a game changer for me. I had a kid that was suicidal. We intervened, and really, in some ways, I feel like we saved her life. And as you imagine, when I was probably a sophomore in high school, that was a bit of a game changer. And so I went down this path and became a counselor. So finished my bachelor's, then went into my master's degree in counseling, opened a large counseling practice, and have grown it to be an owner-independent company. So I still own it, and we continue to serve children, adolescents, and adults that have experienced trauma. And then that has given me the freedom, really, in the last 5 to 6 years, is really do what I feel called to do, which is the company called Talking with Teri, and that is around the concept of mindset. I've taken my 23 years of counseling background, I've combined it with energy psychology, and then applied the principles of quantum physics to really help women entrepreneurs. And so now I focus solely on, helping them clear out their blocks that are holding them back, personally or professionally, that they're getting in their way of their success story. So they're not able to attract their clients, they're not able to, attract more freedom or attract, really most importantly, more impact in the world. So I love taking people on that journey, and I use a lot of outside the box tools that are more based in the energy psychology realm and the realm of the principles of that govern our universal, that govern our universe. So
I love how you fuse those two things together, because along with counseling, counseling is powerful. And I feel like that's, in a way, could be a really great first step for people when it comes to healing. Because how do you heal? You talk about it, you express yourself, and you can really get everything that's kind of been bottled up inside. And I've noticed too with people that are new to counseling, there's a lot of things that they didn't even think would come out until they talk to someone that just got it, and you feel like you're in that safe space. I'm just going to have him join, so maybe that will help.
of course, I love it.
Yeah. So so you were in this practice for 15 years.
Yeah, even longer. I mean, since really 2000. 2001. Yeah. So 2001. And I think, and I used to think that was like my end all be all. And then I realized that was just really my passion project, because I wanted to help a lot of people that were suffering. And then, now going into what I feel called to do, I cannot shut it off. And I've tried to shut it off. And every time my team suggests something that's really outside my comfort zone, I'm like, okay, we're going to go do this. Right. And I think, right now it's like, I really want to have a bigger impact on who we are connecting with. And I think we're having this conversation on the backdrop of probably one of the most, or will become one of the most influential kind of times in our lives. And you think about, this time is almost a time of deep searching and stepping into our higher being, and whatever that looks like for each person. But I feel like it's really, I mean, this last year, I know that when I'm working with clients or when I've been, having conversations with people, it's all been about bringing up what we have been avoiding, being distracted from, whatever that is. And it gave us time. It gave us time to look at, you know, what is that unresolved business? What is that, looking like? And, I know I had a lot of, and I work with a lot of, high level clients that are already doing incredible things in their businesses, but they realize, oh, I've been playing it safe. I've been playing it, I've been going by status quo, and this is the year that I'm claiming to get out of that rut and get out and look at myself and how I've been contributing to this and really doing the deeper work. And so I think it's a profound time, for all of us to look at, and really pay attention to, all those things that we've been avoiding, and really doing the personal development work. So I know that this last year has been all about personal development, and I know going into 2021, we're going to see more and more, people leveling it up and really, going for it, right?
Right. And I love that this is, my first recorded episode of the year, and we're going way in there talking about how to get unblocked, how to, really like just kill it, right? With this, now this brand new start. Because I know, yeah, like we said, 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people. But now that we've kind of like, okay, we kind of see where we're going with this, now we can really just not let it keep us from reaching our goals, but to see how can we make this situation work for us. And I think that's what shows resiliency. That's what shows, where your inner strengths are. And for me personally, if it wasn't for all of the energy work I did last year, I would not be here on this show right now because all of that work helped me feel like, okay, I can level it up. I can, be more visible. I can create avenues where people globally can find me and, hear the stories that I have to tell. So I'm 100%, 150%, believer in all this on how to unblock, and really work on the mindset. So that is amazing.
And do you notice it too? I don't know about you, but I am just noticing like this, I don't know, this effervescent energy that is happening right now. I mean, it is so powerful to be around and having conversations, around people. I just did on one of my, events that I did a come as you are party, to really kick off the year. And we did some work around grounding in and anchoring in this new vibration, because, I always tell people that everything that we have is that in our lives right now is because we're in the same vibrational alignment as it. But everything else that we are striving towards, or, looking toward, hitting those desires, they're all outside that vibrational alignment. So, so we did this really fun come as you are party to really, start languaging ourselves as if we've already created it, right? And it was so profound, like how creative people got. But it really was about anchoring in this new vibration, because who are we getting to become in this new year? I mean, and every year we had this opportunity to really look at, what is it that we're looking to do this year? And so I just know that there's such a profound energy, and maybe because last year was such a, how do I put that nicely? Like such a hot mess that everyone's like, oh my goodness, like anything's better now. Like, like we set the bar pretty low. And so now, but there's such a fun energy about it that people are just excited about and really claiming this year. So I know for certain we're going to see some pretty epic stuff this year. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Right. No, same here. Because I think last year, a lot of things just came to light, right? Because we had to be alone with ourselves. We had to really hone in on like, what is our intuition telling us? And that's what last year told me. I literally sat with myself and just let the inner voice kind of tell me, guide me, give me clues as to what I should be doing. And it led me to this. And so, so I feel like last year was a lot about, setting down, seeds and just let it grow. And then this year it's just going to blossom. Like that's what
Yeah.
my gut tells me about this year. So I 100% agree with you. And I have to say, I love your title, Transformational Life Strategist. That sounds badass, first of all.
Pretty badass.
Yeah, because I feel like just with a lot of things in life, there a strategy, and a lot of people may think that's so masculine. That's so like not you can't plan everything, but I'm a firm believer in applying strategies to things in order to see a certain result, right? So
Yeah.
just in your title alone, it really shows like if you want to see transformational things happen in your life, you have to have a strategy.
And I always tell people I do two things. The first thing is like we look at what is holding you back. What's that unresolved business? What is that, those challenges, the barriers, the blocks? What is the old stories, right? And we take a look at those, and then I have lots of different outside the box processes that I run clients through based on what's coming up for them. And it doesn't have to be forever. It can be pretty quick. I mean, I have one client that clears so quickly, like within like 30 seconds. And it's like, oh, let's have fun, right? And then, so we work on clearing those out. And then the second thing that I do, and I think this is very important, is I teach them the tools that are based in the principles of the universe that can allow them to create on demand. And so the title of the book is called Be the Magic of You. And I honestly, I had a different title for years before that. And I had to change the title for a long reason. Long story, but I was like stuck, and I was like, gosh, and so I kept hearing my clients say, I feel magical. I feel magic. I feel like I can create on demand. I feel like I have a magic wand. And I was like, okay, there's something with this. And when I looked up the word magic, it actually comes from an old Persian word, and it actually means to have power. And I'm like, ooh, I love that, right? Sometimes we think the word magic is like, oh, unicorns and butterflies. But when you think about like to own your power and to stand in your power, that is the brilliance of, I hope what I help bring out of people so that they can really shine. And I think you said it so eloquently there earlier was, to be seen and to be heard, I think is probably the two biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face when they want to have impact. If your target is to have an impact on 5 people, probably don't need to be seen and heard by the world. But if your intentionality or your intention is to be seen and heard by 500 million or beyond, right? You have to be seen and you have to have your voice heard. And so there's a lot of stuff that comes up. I have some of the clients that I work with. It's amazing to see. I have some high level individuals, and I'm like, how is it that you've gotten so far in your life or in your business or in your career, and yet you're terrified to speak in public, and yet they do it? But there's all these little, like, these stories that are running amok. And as soon as we clear out those stories and they stand in it with 100% knowing and trusting in themselves, it is a game changer because they show up differently. They have a different vibration that they're showing up to, and people are just like, I want to know you. I want to hear more about you. And that becomes really fun because that's the way in which we can have a bigger impact.
Right. And I think a big part of it is kind of just accepting the fact that you're stepping into your purpose, and
Yeah.
you just have to wholeheartedly believe, like, especially like you said, like if you want to be heard by 5 people or, around the world, like it's very intentional, with what you're trying to do. And to be honest, when I started the show, I figured, okay, friends and family are going to listen to this. Maybe some clients will find me through this, or people that just want to hear another person's, story about how they healed from all of these illnesses. And then I got a way bigger result than I ever imagined, with 18 countries at the moment of this recording. So it's just
That's so
crazy.
exciting. Congratulations. I mean, celebrate that. I mean, yes, I'll take more of that, right? Like, I'll take more of that. I mean, think about your voice is being heard into 18 countries. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that's awesome. And we were talking before the show, I was telling you that we had launched our podcast around the same time, not even knowing each other. And it's funny because I was telling you that that wasn't even on my radar. That was not on my bucket list. That was not on my, but I was in such alignment that it just fell into place. And it's funny because like one of my good friends from high school, her mom used to tell me all the time, Teri, do you know you're going to be on a radio show someday? You're going to be on a radio show. And I was like, this is not too far off from a radio show, right? And so I was like, oh my goodness, like here it is. And I couldn't even imagine like having that idea or even bringing that to fruition. But we were talking earlier is like when you come in alignment with your purpose, like you said, and your passion and that energy, like things will fall into place and it becomes very clear very fast. And it's like, yes, I will do this, right? So, and it's I just find it so magical. Like literally today, I've had two magical experiences happen today, and I can't even really process them. I'm like, how did that just happen? You know, and I'm just
I
like,
love
okay,
that.
my angels are on full on board and they are telling me they are here because I'm like, there's no other explanation. Like,
Are you seeing
I'm
angel numbers
like,
too?
what's that?
Are you seeing angel numbers too?
Oh, I see. Yes, I see angels, but I literally had the, oh my goodness, it's just so juicy. But I'm like, I just feel like my angels are very present right now. And today they've shown themselves in the most unusual ways that I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. So such good stuff. Such good
Yeah.
stuff.
And it's crazy because with the new moon was this week, and last night I did actually a new moon manifestation ceremony with this business academy that I'm in with my business coach and other women in business that we know. And it was just so crazy that around this time my angel numbers were popping off left and right all throughout the day, and I'm just like, what the heck, something's coming, like something, whatever I'm manifesting right now, it's in alignment, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and it's, my goals right now are mainly focused towards this podcast, so I'm like, we'll see, because this growth is crazy. So it's just so great. But for your work, so what are some of your favorite tools that you use as far as helping people uncover all those things that are bottled up? What are your favorite things, methods that you see the most success in?
Yeah. So I use a whole bunch of different methods. Sometimes I'll use a combination of tapping. Sometimes I'll use a combination of more like, emotional code or even some access consciousness when we're utilizing some more of these generative questions. But first of all, like, when I'm working with a client, I want to make sure that so we've had decades. Okay, we've had decades of creating these really great stories, right? And oftentimes we're in this what I want to call this cycle that we can't seem to turn off, right? And what happens with the brain is when we go into this place and space, our brain is programmed to see certain things, right? And so if I think usually when you boil down what's going on for a lot of people, there's a belief system that's running the show and unconscious, but that belief system has been supported over the years. And over those years, we have found tons of evidence to support it. And so our brain is always searching out to find that evidence to support it. Well, we can change that evidence. And it's pretty amazing if we choose. And so I want to give some value to the listeners that are listening right now is how to stop that, right? Because I think that's the biggest challenge that people have is fighting those old stories, right? And we get to make a choice. I mean, we make about 35,000 choices based on science, they say, a day. Okay, so when you think about that, if I'm, am I going to take a shower today or am I not? Am I going to wear my hair up or am I going to wear hair down? Am I going to put on the hot pink dress? Am I going to wear like, I mean, we probably make 10,000 choices just to get out the door in the morning, right? And so, like we're always making these choices. And so I feel that we get a choice, right? And we get to make a choice. And yes, we've gone and done that story, but we also have the responsibility in ourselves to say, you know what, I'm going to start owning my happiness. I'm going to start owning my truth, and we can shift this and we can change that. Okay. And so that for me is very empowering to know like, oh, I got choice. Right. And I always talk about people getting like what I call getting stuck in the muck. And that's usually, fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, all of that. And then ultimately they come back up and they might have a one day or maybe it's an hour, but they're like, like I'm driving and life feels good and my favorite song comes on, someone treats me to a coffee and life is amazing, right? And you're just feeling this high, but then ultimately we fall back down and we get stuck again. And that can be, a week, a month, 7 years for some folks, right? and I used to think the most important part was like living up here of being like, oh yeah, it's like, I call this the zone of brilliance. And then what I realized that was not the most important. The most important was the transitional periods between having lost it and having it. And when we look down at those transitional points, then we get to make a choice, right? And in that moment, we can make a choice. And so I want to share with you, your audiences, a tool, especially because when we engage the brain, we're also engaging the reticular activation system, which is a part of the system that's always scanning our environment to find evidence to support it. Okay. And it's brilliant. It's almost like a Google machine. So if you type in, purple elephants, you're most likely going to find some version of a purple elephant. That's just like our brain. If I tell it to think negative, it's going to think negative. If I tell it to think positive, it's going to think positive. Okay. Again, we are in control of that piece. So when we have those negative thoughts that are coming in, or those negative belief systems that are running the show, once we become conscious to it, we can say this. And so it's a bit of it's a little wordy, so the listeners will have to come back and write this down. But it's interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view. And you're going to say that 3 times. So I'm going to repeat that. So interesting point of view that I have this interesting point of view. And when you're going to say that 3 times, and this is used for any time that you're judging yourself, judging others, anytime you're having negative thoughts, anytime you're jumping to conclusions or outcomes, because all of that actually shuts off the energy. And so when we can cancel out those thoughts, okay, that's not serving us, and that's playing old stories, playing small old story stuff, we can then have a choice of going. And so I'll usually say that and cancel it out. And then for me, I like to open myself back up to all the possibilities again. So I'll ask something like, what else is possible? And when I ask that question, it's a generative question, it is almost like aligning with all the molecules of the universe saying, oh yeah, I don't know, what else is possible? And then my brain will go, I don't know, let me go find out for you, right? And so my brain now has a job to go find out, something better, right? And so now I'm giving it, instead of the Google of that, I'm giving it the Google of something positive that's going to contribute to me better. So that's a fun tool. And I have in my book, Be the Magic of You, Tools to Transform Your Life, I have probably over 160, maybe over 170 different tools that people can use at different things and different times and different questions, strategies, tips. I mean, so many, even just the way in which we wake up in the mornings to the way we end our days. Just really great information to really look at, how do you put yourself back in your power, back in your magic, and really start to create on demand.
So I'm definitely getting a copy of your book today.
I love it.
I just love being able to reference back to something whenever I'm like, okay, like if I didn't remember it for, for Word or anything. So that sounds like a great book that everyone needs to have in their library. So definitely grab a copy.
Yeah. I'm actually giving away a free copy. So if people just go to the website, bethemagicofyou.com, they can get a free copy right there on the website. Just pay for shipping, but it's free to you.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I think that's the biggest thing, because a lot of people, of course, want to get, out of the muck, right? They want to get the results that they're desperately looking for. So I think, really utilizing the tools that are out there is huge, right? It comes with practice and applying that in your life. So anything that can be shared by experts like yourself, amazing. Like, I'm all for it. Yeah, so I mean, that's just so wonderful. I just love all the work that you're doing and the impact that you have. It's just, I feel like there needs to be more, essentially you're a healer, right? You're a light worker, someone that really is trying to have someone see their own light, because I think a lot of us, we forget, as we go through life, as they're not seeing the results that they're looking for, they're just kind of like, maybe that I'm just not a winner. Now I remember something. I was watching a show and it was called Atlanta. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't. I think I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, yeah. So in the show, it's around this character where he is just he just keeps hitting a wall. Like everything he's trying to do in life to level up, it's just something happens and it blows up in his face. And he said a line that kind of reminded me of where I thought I was, or where I had this type of thought years ago when I was just getting disappointed in some of the things I was trying to do. And he said something like, maybe some of us aren't meant to be winners. Some of us are just meant to be the losers while the winners get to, keep doing what they're doing. And I was like, man, like, I'm sure a lot of people are probably feeling like that right now during COVID. They spent years building a successful business, and then because of the economy and everything, they lost it. And with all the restaurants closing, that could have been someone's big dream, is to own their own restaurant. And you get what I'm talking about. So
it's just been, oh yeah, it's been such devastation, and the impact that this pandemic has had on people.
Right. I think that victim mentality, we really, once we hear that negative thought, we have to stop it in its tracks before it manifests into like all these other things. And so I think it's really helpful with tools that you provide can get people also kind of rewiring their thoughts, right? Like as soon as they start to feel it going left, it's like, nope, we're not going to go that way because it's only going to bring on other things.
Yeah, I love, and I think it's again, going back to choice, right? We have a choice on how we're going to show up, I mean, and that's the only thing that we have control over. Even though the world seems like it's been turned upside down and we have no control over it, we still have control on how we're going to show up. How are we going to put one foot in front of the other, right? Like that is our choice that we get to make. And I'm always, someone the other day said, gosh, you're so positive. Like, isn't this, but you know what? It's taken me years of training. That was not my case. I did not have an easy upbringing. I was very negative. I had victim mentality, and people, like, when they meet me today, they're like, how is that even possible? I'm like, oh, so I have to share with them that transformational story because people don't believe me, right? But when COVID happened for us, it was literally like, within 72 hours, we made a quick pivot and we went virtual. So my other company just went virtual, and continued to go and continue to grow. Like it actually grew during this time. And my other company was always virtual. So like nothing really changed, right? And so, but it was one of those things. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, make the best out of this, make the most out of this, and so yeah. So I think I think there's some companies, and unfortunately, my heart breaks, and I tell my daughter this all the time. I'm like, oh, whenever I see a business go whenever I say a business go out of business, my heart breaks for them because I know I can imagine the pain. I can imagine, and it's not their fault. It's not, for lack of them trying or for lack of them getting creative. Like, I mean, unfortunately, what happened was some businesses were deemed with this label of essential and some were deemed as not. In my opinion, every business is essential because when you look at one business, and if they go out of business, I mean, they have a ripple effect. I mean, it's not just one person. It's just not one business. I mean, you're talking about families, and you're talking about a huge impact that even if it's a small mom and pop shop, still a huge impact we had a company go out in our town, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was like a staple of this community, and it's so heartbreaking. So anyway, I got on a little tangent.
No worries at all. And that's why like my main focus is like, yes, like how can people pivot, or how can we not allow this type of pandemic take over completely, right? Like we have to do the best we can with what is there. And just like you, like in a way, like COVID was a blessing in disguise for me and like my businesses as well. And I've been, working remotely since 2012. So in a way, it's like I've kind of always been in this space. Not much has changed for me personally. I had to change a couple things, but it wasn't too major. So yeah, I just think definitely 2020 showed us a lot. And now we just gotta take over this year. So.
I think what has been so phenomenal in all of this is even if some of those companies that were not considered essential, the creativity and the innovation that has like risen from this is just off the charts unbelievable. And I have one particular person in mind that I'm like, wow. I mean, she almost lost her business, and she took everything in her to turn it around. And I mean, she now has 2 streams of income as a result of that. I mean, passive income with products that she was able to create and develop. And then she got really stinking innovative. And I'm just like, so there's part of me that goes, gosh, like what a gift for her, because she's just opened up these other doors and now she's prepared and ready for next year. I hope next year is not the same story, but oh my goodness, like I'm just like, I think that's the energy that I'm feeling of like, oh my gosh, people have taken, and really truly taken those lemons and made lemonade out of it. And so it's pretty profound to watch folks, do what they need to do, but totally 1000% get out of their comfort zone. And that's not easy for anyone, especially based on our brain and how our brain is, wired to keep us safe.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised as we see more things unfold and more, creative things that are being born during this time of the pandemic. So I'm really liking, with social media, you can kind of see, people are like, oh, I have a launch coming up or this coming up. And, we just have to keep empowering each other and basically saying the sky is the limit. We can do whatever we want to do, pandemic or not. We just got to keep going. So
Yeah.
definitely mindset is huge. And I'm just really looking forward to reading your book now. Like I just love learning, more and more, being a sponge, and what I didn't already know, great. Like I can just add that to my toolkit. So
And I'm not sure when this will launch, but on February 2nd, we're having a big event. It's a free 3-hour event from 9 to 12. It's going to be, I'm going to be coaching and training, but I'm also going to be, we're going to end in a bit of a party. So it's fun and exciting. So I don't know when this is going to launch, but hopefully people can join us. And to find out, you can just go to the website at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to find out the details for that event.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm sure, everyone's doing virtual parties right now. So count me in. I'll be there.
Oh, that'd be great. We would love to have you.
Awesome. So where can our listeners find you online? I know you mentioned your website a couple of times, but Instagram, Facebook.
Yep, I'm on all the social media platforms. So talkingwithteri.com has all the links in one place. But I'm on Instagram. If you just go into Talking with Teri, that's TERI. And then if you want to grab a copy, it's bethemagicofyou.com.
Perfect. And thank you all again for listening today, and we'll catch you all next time. Thank you so much, Teri. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely delightful. Thank you.
Thank you.